Hello there, everybody. What's going on? Yeah, a little bit of Leon Russell. I'll tell you what. Wow. Memories go back 1973. Uh, what a time for us to be alive, as they would say. But hey, it's good. Let me see if I can get everything up here. I think it says everything is cool. Yeah. So happy Prosperity Day to you. Yeah, I know it's live. We love it when it's live. So hello everybody. So what is happening? So good to see you. And now I'm on the right page at the right place, and the bus is pulling away. So again, it's Monday. Mondays are prosperity days. So yeah, dig it, baby. Speaking favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Speak that favor to you. Do a little mirror talking, and it'll show up all over the place. So, hey, Gaia, how are you, my love? Shannon, Grandpa Brian, Melinda, Elda Barry, John, how are you doing? Witch Moon 73, Deborah, Jules, much love. Hello, Heidi and Tony. Much love to you, my dear. From the heart, Heidi, from the heart, honey. Bernadette, good to see you. I have the maelstrom. Hello, Jules, Julianne, go. It's Doris, I think I'm doing. I'm glad I took Evelyn Wood. Hello, Al. Good to see you, brother. Joe Sapien, BD Unknown. How are you, Bosto? Exactly. When we do our card giveaway, going to be giving away some Bosto t-shirts. So going to have some fun. Grandpa Brian, and remember the gathering. How you doing, brother? Linda, good to see you, my love. Loretta, good to see you. Soul Trip, hello. Ruth Ann, Nina, how are you, my dear? The Delta Hook Set, boom, good to see you. Mad Cow, hello. Scotty Boy, what's happening? So go, good to see you as well. Paul from Newcastle, Gaia and Paul, let's see. Yeah, groovy week in beginning of the week. I don't know. It's really a kind of relative, isn't it? We're programmed to think that this is somehow the beginning of the week. I don't know. Maybe it's perpetual. Hey, Regina, what's happening? Good to see you. The Soul Tribe is here. So happy birthday if you got one. And baby, we are a prospering. No doubt. Preston Dixie, I tried to get to you yesterday. We're going to get it together. You know that. I know that. And when it does, it's going to be groovy. And I want to just welcome everyone to the Cosmic Coven. I love this. This Friday, going to have the same brilliant, wise women that were on there on Friday. We're going to be talking about herbal healing, the kind of good stuff. For instance, this tea, which is all natural, it's a spice chi tea. All I know, my wife, she can smell it when I bring it down into the family room. And, it just, the aroma, it just invites the groovy spirits in. Saw one today while doing the laundry. Quite interesting. You see them, you catch them. They're right on the peripheral. It's because in the peripheral vision, that's literally what it is. It's peripheral because it gets into those other realms that are right here. This is a crowded place, a lot of spirit beings. And apparently, when you think about it, and I'm just want to say hi to Peggy. You wrote an interesting comment on Friday's show. I think it was Friday's show. It may have been Thursday, but it's interesting. A lot of us see them. We just been trained and programmed not to. And, we are a fine tuned quartz instrument. And if you never fine tune your tuning dial, well, you can pick up all sorts of crap out there, and it's going to sound like gibberish. For the most part, you don't even hear it at all. It's like, oh, man. Real quick, some people have been writing on the show, the Steiger Perspective. strange stuff going on. The one thing about the Steiger perspective, it's a brutally honest assessment perspective of the happenings today. And, there have been things stated on that show that have, well, it's like being a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. What are the odds that tail is not going to be stepped on, right? Well, and that's what happened. And so why don't y'all just go over there and log on, go over to artistverse.com and just get to the comment. And you can see in the contact section and just tell the Z-Man you love the show. And listen, they have no doubt have taken some pressure. Yeah. I don't speak it about here because the bots will pick it up and immediately they analyze every word. So as we continue just to basically stay on the esoteric and the more, let's say, spiritual side of the equation, the bots, they've learned, they become spiritual, and a lot of them kind of dig it. It's interesting. Bots do form that thing. But just right, tell the Z-Man, hey, you love the show. And Thursday show was a humdinger. It was. And the thing about it is I record all of those shows. So I've got them and they're in my archives. And, if you ever want to listen to one, you don't get to listen, let me know. I'll send you a copy of it. Hey, Pangrady, good to see you. Gilbert, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Ginger, hello. Much love to you. Linda, let me do something here real quick. There we go. Yeah, cool. All right, so I'm back. And what else is happening? I really want to get some merchandise with the Cosmic Coven. That's just cool shit, man. I just got to tell you, man, that is brilliance of originality. And because that's what we are. If you believe this, today we're going to focus in on, just write me and email me and I'll send you a copy. Hey, Scotty boy, Cosmic Oven. Yeah, it's a bacon shake, no doubt about it. But there's also, we got some master chefs in here. Hey, Plendemic, good to see you as well. Andrew, hello. So we're taught that at that moment of transition that we somehow transmute from a condition of physical life that can be scientifically defined, observed, and thus we could say, well, that would be truth. Observation is 90% of what one perceives as truth. So if you observe these things over and over again, then you know that your experiment is in fact correct. That's okay, Linda. Hey, Kathy, what's up? Alien Believer, Esley, hello. Okay, so go, good to see you. And during this time, it is the transmutation of what we would call life consciousness that was housed in an organ called the brain that could be mapped, seen in action. But at that moment of death, human death, the transition is that we're taught that we somehow transition to either a form that we were or into a form that we have not been introduced before. It's kind of the thing with reincarnation. It seems like if a spirit being is reincarnated, as they say, I don't know. I have a problem with that because it diminishes what this experience is. And if it's the case that only it can be learned in this realm, I don't know, what does that say for the other realms? Or is that to say that there are not lessons to be learned? So let's get back over onto the medical side of the equation. I contend that we live in a time of what we call the time of man. That time is not as long as we think it is, but this earth has been in many different planes, dimensions, and as it's traveled through that etheric orbit, that plane, it picks up a lot of life forms, spirit beings, beings made of many different substances. And it would appear that as the earth or basically is traveling through the, I love this, the etheric cosmos, that can in fact trap beings, life beings, just of a different substance here. Because here apparently extends into multiple dimensions. And thus we have where we are today. Guy, what is this? When I helped my my beautiful mom transition, when she left, the wall behind where she was at faded in and out and wobbled. Wow. Transition zone. Yeah. So I got a couple of cool papers here that I thought we would check out. And excuse me as this goes off. So this paper is, let's see, it's, I want to get to the right. Yeah, this is the right one. Bingo. All right. I think you can see me. No glitches. All right, so this is a concept paper written by Michael M. Marsh. He is a professor, it looks like, at Wolfson College, University of Oxford in Oxford. And there's his email address for those who want to write him. It's an interesting paper that he wrote here, and I thought it would be a really good place for us to kind of to continue on this adventure. So the abstract of the paper is this. He says, this paper critically reviews assertions that near death and out-of-body experiences, in which we would call NDEs or OBEs, many of people here call it NDEs, near-death experience, offer proof of extracorporeal existence when the brain is supposedly dead. Now, stop right here. We know within the last 2 years, science has made the breakthrough that in not all cases, but in the vast majority of the cases, the brain, and this is kind of weird when you think about it, it's kind of freakish as well, is that the body is dead. Rigor mortis is setting in. The blood is piling down. As you know, if you've ever seen dead bodies, you know what happens. But yet, with the brain no longer having oxygen, nutrients supplied to it, that the brain continues to function on an average of 22 to as much as 34 minutes after death is pronounced. Now, science is beginning to go, okay, let's just take a time out here then. So what's happening to this marvelous organ? There isn't anything else like it in the universe. In fact, if you look at the universe, it looks like the brain. But what's happening to you, to me? It says, while this field has almost moved away from the mere anecdotal recording, the current trend is focused on demonstrating existence without functional brains. These endeavors have fallen far short of anticipated results. That cardiac patients would report on strategically placed markers around acute resuscitation units. The two problems arise. Now, they're primarily most of these studies have been on cardiac arrest patients, because the other types of death are typically much more permanent, not going to bring you back. One, a failure to produce corroborative empirical evidence for extracorporeal cognition, when the brain is clinically, or for all intents and purposes, dead. Again, or clinically dead, so-called. And B, how the memory required for recall could paradoxically be set down at the critical time point. I mean, when they bring these cardiac patients back, they're dead. But through modern resuscitation techniques, the stories are what modern science can't quite answer, and thus the paper here. The view advanced here is that the near-death or out-of-body experience occurs as subjects state are returning to complete resumption of conscious awareness, and which, from several published accounts, is particularly abrupt, but which nevertheless accounts perfectly for memory and recall. Similar transcendental adventures accompanying returns to conscious awareness occur with other preceding states of reduced consciousness. Most regulations are intentionally geophysical, anthropomorphic, binal, and illogical. Their dreamlike fantasy provides nothing revelatory about life without a brain, or, importantly, about other supposed cosmic contexts. Additionally, it is proposed that since prevalence rates are so extremely low, less than 1% globally, the few subjects undergoing near-death or out-of-body experiences may have predisposed brains, genetically, structural, and resulting from previous psychological stress. In a somewhat similar vein to post-traumatic stress disorder, subjects with predisposed brains exhibit markedly changed post-experimental phenotypes, so that the near-death or out-of-body experience itself could be viewed as a transient accompanying epiphenomenon. Wow. So here are some initial considerations. For many, the occurrence of near-death or out-of-body experience is probably viewed with bemusement, while for others, including many professionals, it constitutes a subject demanding a lifetime's dedicated research. If we could break this, ladies and gentlemen, Soul Tribe, if we could break this and make it a proven fact, using the parameters that we are giving by natural law here, we would most likely defeat death. Interesting discussion on that. Can the spirit of death be defeated? The other obvious but important divide is between those who disregard the significance of an ND or OBE, as opposed to those who see them as offering unassailable proof of life without or outside the body or brain. In many publications, it is often asserted that the near-death or out-of-body involve 10 to 20% of the population, as a near-death experiences are unanimously acclaimed to represent a worldwide phenomenon. Then, given an existing population of 7 billion inhabitants, these figures would be indicative of about a 1 to 1.5 billion near-death or out-of-body experience subjects. surely it would be a global pandemic. We do not have a complete inventory of all the near-death experiencers, but the Near-Death Experimental Research Foundation currently lists over 4,000 respondents who have undergone at least one such event. As a preliminary, I offer some notional figures. A suggested figure of 7 million near-death or out-of-body experiences, for example, would thus yield a 0.1% global prevalence, but it could be higher. So, for example, a presumptive population, even as high as 70 million subjects worldwide, would only just reach 1% of a prevalence rate. The emphasis, the overall insignificance of this phenomenological, especially when compared with about 3.5 billion individuals worldwide, for example, professing allegiance to 3 historic Abrahamic faiths. Now, this is really important because it is contended that wherever your background is, and if you are in fact nearly the 4 billion individuals that have been exposed to this virus, this pandemic called the Abrahamic faiths, well, it sets within us, it pre-programs our brain at the moment of death for that program to kick in. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Notwithstanding the prevalence estimates, the most important issue is whether the near-death or out-of-body experience offers evidence, not only for life outside the known world, but perhaps more critically, of possible existence while the brain is supposedly dead, as some would have it. Now, you think about it, if your brain is still alive for 22 minutes, the problem really becomes, how does the brain begin to interpret this? This is a new experience. You're still functioning. Apparently, the synaptic pathways have enough energy within them that they're still communicating. Something's going on. Medical science doesn't know what that something is, but something is going on. Now, I find it beyond fascinating because it's something we're all going to experience. And I no longer buy the pre-programming that I had been subjected to that would have kicked in upon my physical death. I would have had a program that would have been set in a narrow set of parameters, what to expect. Now, in the book, Edadorphai, which is Aphrodite spelled backwards, we know that the man that caused everything, he came in to the situation and realized that death, as we would know it, apparently there's a lifetime that takes place. It's quite amazing to think about how this is going and playing out. So let's just say, for instance, you have this perception of heaven, hell, right? And you have been taught that upon that moment of transition, you're going to be met with either angels or with demons. You're either going to go to a place called heaven or you're going to journey to a place called hell. Now, when this program kicks in, because you're dead, or you know that death is there, so it goes on autopilot, which we'll get into that a little bit more here. But now, if you're in a different paradigm, and for different religions, the program will kick in. The question is, when you become deprogrammed, what is it that what's going on? There's something going on. There's an adventure. Okay, in passing, we should note that the thrust of this argument is largely based, as again, on studies with cardiac arrest subjects. The latter clearly endure variable periods of reduced cerebral blood perfusion, during which circumstances measurable brain activity dwindles rapidly. Nevertheless, the conclusion forced upon us is that in these circumstances, some form of conscious life, whether denoted as mind, soul, or raw consciousness, does occur without any cerebral underpinning during those critical periods of underperfusion. Wow. One important outcome is the degree of bias introduced through sole use of cardiac patients. I mean, for the most part, you don't have doctors there that are, well, say, can we get this measured real quick? I want to see how that looks on the indice so we can get this electrocardiogram going. No, they're trying to save the guy or woman. Yeah. But yet now, even cardiac doctors that are in that profession, they're saying, okay, so what is going on? Many of them have written that the fact that it does not escape them when they resuscitate a patient, and this patient could be in a state of clinical death for an extended period of time, they often ask, well, where is that person? Are they really up here? I don't know. Is this part of the stories that we hear of people being pulled back? They didn't want to come back. Apparently, they were in a place that, one would interpret as a paradise. Some have reported that the other realms look exactly like this, and that you have the period clothing that you will be identified with. Okay. Given the brief background, the aim of this short review is to consider, through its subsequent subsections, the extent to which many of these claims could be deemed reasonable and thus truly reflective of an extracorporeal existence. That's what we're talking about. So the author says, I continue immediately with generalized and critical comments upon the nature and quality of the NDE reporting, followed by more formal approaches from the neuropathological and theological approaches. He says he ends by suggesting new proposals for research of thought which could advance our understanding of this fascinating phenomenology. All right. So the first section is the near-death and out-of-body experimental curriculum. Baseline features. The basic features are well known and have been extensively itemized through media interest, with often little informed critical appreciation of the material being disseminated. That, to my way of thinking, is important because there is no universal form of experience. I mean, most time when you're doing an experiment, you have at least somewhat the peripheral boundaries or foundation by which you're going to conduct your experiment. This one gets a little bit more technical, doesn't it? Because, how many of us are around something like this? No one is, unless you're, emergency or first responder or a doctor. Anyway, he says he's actually got some graphs here we're going to take a look at. Reveals how fewer subjects seemingly were able to sample the complete list of options on offer, otherwise termed a in-depth experience. Indeed, the so-called depth requirement may have nothing to do with any of the supposed gravity of the event itself, but only with duration. We have no empirical tools with which to measure the depth of any experience. While it is obvious that prolonged events, like dreams, do not necessarily have to be deep. One might conclude, only analogous to dreaming, that a prolonged experience would have greater remembered significance for the subject than one of the transients. Wow. Nor is there a uniform sequence, as idolized by Raymond Moody. For example, the tunnel phenomenon and the light may not be present. Indeed, the marked the mark of the near-death experience recalled makes precise definition extremely difficult. Finally, rings that a demonic sequence should be quickly jettisoned into historic oblivion. You can get an idea of this. Obviously, there is some great debate among these academics. So here is this chart. It's cool. And if you can if you want to look at it. So 100% of the respondents, each one of these have a different code that we'll talk about. So you have here complete darkness. That's all they remember. Complete darkness. And each one of these are a different subject group. There were, as you can see, and by the way, I found this fascinating because it looks like there is a small percentage, very small percentage, that upon their death and then being, resuscitated, resurrected, very small percentage actually saw nothing. I find it interesting that as you go left to right, that the out-of-body experience, you can see that the groups here, the subset groups, each one are experienced more. Some as high as 75% report that they were out of their body. Many of them were in these emergency rooms where they saw the medical staff working on them. They actually can remember faces of the eyes and what have you. Look at the majority of the number on the tunnel experience. Although you can see that there's a greater saturation of the overall groups, that even that at the peak is only 50% that actually experience this tunnel phenomenon. Here is another high one. As you look into the subset groups again, large representation here, and again, hitting high about the 71, 72%, all experienced a light. Now, medical science says they have an answer for this. They will tell you that what's happening is that the nodules at the end of your the syntax of your brain, the cerebral pathways, they're exploding. They're dying. They don't have oxygen. And so as each one dies, basically explodes, it emanates supposedly the perception of light. And if you can imagine billions of these going off, yeah. I found this most compelling. The next category, although it has a fewer number of representative of the subset groups, it ranked the highest. Love. The ones in this group described an overwhelming feeling of love. Many, as we will read, describe this envelopment of love. Some have written that they were crying as spirits, but the love was so intense. Yeah. The next highest ranking group, again, a smaller representation of the groups, but nevertheless was senses. This group adequately could feel, for instance, needles going into their body, but they're looking at their bodies. Many talk about intense cold. Others hearing, smelling, tasting. Yeah. This next group, again, only actually was the smallest represented group. However, it is significant to point out that in this group, they had a sense of all knowing. Well, that's far out. All knowing. The next group, again, smaller in representation, and again, little over 52%, they were in heaven. They were very upset that they were pulled back because apparently they got rejected, not from heaven, the fact that they couldn't stay. The next group, and I found this compelling as well. Although it has the largest, second to the largest representation of the subset of the groups, is this life review. As you can see, and even of that subset group, only 25, 26% remember they had a life review. The next one I found interesting because here again, it begins with a larger representation group, and in fact, when you look at, I think it's about 53%, this group reported having meetings. Many times it was with loved ones. One story that I read that was particularly moving was a guy that was having a conversation with his dad. And in the fact, as he reported, he said his dad was talking to him and they shared only something that he said only my dad knew. Many others have reports of meeting with a representative of Jesus, etc. And then finally, this is a smaller representation of the subset group as well. Barriers. This group described the transition was not pleasant. This group represented, I think, probably one of the more, what you'll read is difficulties. That there was this barrier that they could not penetrate or were not allowed. It's so interesting. Let's continue on. He says, this is interesting. How trustworthy are these reports? He says, can we believe the testimonies recorded and rest assured that these events have actually happened? The former Grote professor of logic at Oxford University, A.J. Ayer, was clearly shown to have bent the truth. We should recall that as a so-called logical positivist, there's a word, he would have demanded the strictest evidential basis for any propositional statement offered. Yet he was forced to grovel in making his final public confession that God did not exist. Well, I can dig that. The American physician, Larry Dossey, also published a fabulous account involving a supposedly blind woman, Sarah, recalling precise details in the corridor and operating room on a specific morning, the day on which the anesthesiologist wore unpaired socks. Again, this embarrassing venture into untruthfulness was exposed. Nowhere NDE was reported of a woman who allegedly crossed a river, saw her father, heard beautiful music, and was surrounded by angels. The point of this is that the media seemed to pump up these occurrences, often accompanied by colored photographs revealing out of focus lights in which the subject is supposedly floating. The best-selling book, The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven, a remarkable account of miracles, angels, and life beyond this world, was a complete fraud. The child, Alex Malarkey, yes, Malarkey, that's what it is, although involved in a car crash, simply invented the story. He never died, nor visited heaven, or even had opened a Bible. Furthermore, the publishers showed considerable reluctance in withdrawing the book. More embarrassingly, the name of this culprit seemed to fit the crime. The message here is that readers unfamiliar with ND or OBE territory need to be extra careful in interpreting what they read or are being led to believe. The idiosyncrasy and nature of near-death experiences. Above, I hinted at the variable content of NDE, which frustrates definitional clarity. Each account is a personally recalled event, which is culturally, historically, and geographically determined, together with an influence from historic religious traditions. It is, I think, important to recognize the mosaic fabric of all accounts given. One classical account from medieval England recalls a man of substance who was in a prolonged coma, probably resulting from pneumococcal pneumonia, the so-called vigil coma of earlier pre-antibiotic days. He was led by a person of cloth in white through hell, where souls were being burned and frozen, followed by a nearby encounter with heaven, with happy people, music, and beautifully scented vistas. In marked cultural contrast, within the Hindu tradition of India, a man was called to appear before the Yamaraji, the god of death. Before his required audience, his legs were sawn off. Unfortunately, he had been mistakenly called, so necessitating him to reclaim his legs from a cupboard containing all other victims' amputated legs. Then he returned home. There is clearly a vast difference in content between the Indian relationship to Yama, the Kililian people of Papua New Guinea, for whom paradise is a world of factories, automobiles, planes, and highways, and the typical adrenaline Anglo-American accounts of soft breezes and wafting strains of angelic music amidst displays of highly colored flowers, blue skies, and radiant sunshine. Do you know you can get tired of sunshine? Yeah, you can. Yeah. I live in a place where we get about 300 days of sunshine. I love cloudy days because we don't get that many of them. Hellish experiences. Hellish near-death experiences are seemingly not commonly reported and on average ignored, perhaps for good reason. But why? Are these also not part of the experience of the phenomenology? Only the Fenwicks and Margaret Gray from England describe them. The American Dr. Jeffrey Long merely offers a 10% prevalence. In my figures given above, if they are reasonable, then possibly 700,000 or more subjects worldwide could have experienced hell. So where are these people? And why are they denied opportunity to speak? Is it because of their reluctance to revisit extremely vivid, violent, and terrifying events? Several accounts include occasions of intense darkness and gloom, a feeling of falling backwards, of being propelled or sucked downwards due to effects of the vestibular system, um, sometimes accompanied with auditorial sensations of unintelligible screams, sounds, and noises. There are frightening creatures and red colors accompanied by fear, panic, anguish, and dissolution, followed by either a conventional near-death experience or rapid return to consciousness awareness. Wow, that sucks. I used to volunteer in a place where we gave counseling to people who were on bad trips, taking bad LSD or whatever. There were a couple. Wherever they went to, I can just tell you, I didn't want to go there. They never took any more LSD after that. I wonder why. Anyway, for example, a subject's account during a general anesthetic. I was above my body, and below there was a black pit with hands trying to grab me and pull me down into it. A lion came out and jumped on me. The lion is, of course, completely hallucinatorial. Nevertheless, the perception of his body being manipulated by hands suggests awareness of being put onto and removed from the operating table and manipulated as the operation proceeded. There were no hands at all. The hands that were there, he was interpreting as trying to pull him down. All they were doing was helping him out. Similar experiences of being rough-handed were described by neurosurgeon Dr. Eben Alexander with presumptive E. coli meningitis. Folks, you don't want meningitis, trust me. Anyway, had it right there. And the U.S. art critic Howard Storm admitted overnight to a Parson hospital with peritonitis. There, he was attacked by frighteningly horrible people who poked and threatened him. Curiously, they spoke in English, not French. He held them off by praying, but praying offers no regular escape. Afterwards, he experienced a typical near-death experience. The Anglo-Saxon lord Dryclithium, as recorded in Babe's history, while being led through hell, was attacked and struck at by horrible vermin-like creatures, but protected by a man dressed in white who led him onwards. Nevertheless, certain observations arise from these terrifying recollections. And all of us are sitting here going, yeah, okay, yeah. But if you've ever gone under anesthesia, it's a different experience. And a doctor that wanted to do an endoscopy on me didn't work out so well. They had, as the attending doctor that was there, a nurse, they had pumped me full of enough drugs that I should have been out. But nope, I was fighting them. In fact, I was so strong. My wife was there as a witness. 5 of them couldn't hold me down. Don't remember a thing. All right. So first, why do some experiences involve terrible things and then proceed to happier occurrences? Second, could darkness imply the incipient return of conscious awareness? Indeed, this view is strengthened by my observation that many of these subjects were either infected and or in toxum delirium, indicating a superficial level of unconsciousness. Indeed, it is remarkable, but rarely noticed, that they all consistently felt being plucked at, reflecting possibly being touched and moved by clinical and nursing staff, turned, cleaned, and washed, examined, or positioned for interim investigation such as x-rays, or prepared for surgery. These examples indicate the mode of the perception may, in having a differential impact on various parts of the brain, condition the type of responses undergone. I mean, if you're pre-programmed, many people are. I know. I certainly hope that's not the case. I mean, I think I have enough awareness. I'd call bullshit, but hey, I don't know. I'll get there eventually, but I don't know. But this is interesting because again, these are individuals, and as we'll in this paper, we'll finish it. It's well worth it. It really is tied to the individual. And if you have like individuals who have like experiences and like backgrounds, they usually have like experiences in their near-death experience. Somatic content of experiences undergone. This is interesting. He says, I'm unaware of any studies in which the content of subjects' reports are being subject to extended critical analysis. Yet, some very bizarre happenings have been published in numerous assembled anthologies without comment by their respected authors. Here are some examples which have an important bearing on what might actually be going on during these experiences. Following a heart attack, a subject meets his father, deceased 15 years previously, dressed just like he used to be, in gray trousers and a cardigan. He hadn't changed a bit. We chatted quite naturally about the family, and he joked. The obvious questions are, had his father ever undressed and showered? And while showering, were his gray trousers and cardigan laundered? Another woman, after cardiac arrest, explained, I found myself in front of a nice prefabricated building, and mother was visible inside. The patient observes that having brought some dressmaking material, her mother took scissors and prepared to cut the fabric, despite her known inability as a seamstress. This horrified the daughter, but her mother replied that since arriving there, she had been taught how to sew. Then, refusing her an entrance into the house, the daughter was forced to return home to earth, not a little disgruntled, perhaps. A third woman, having endured a painful labor followed by a cesarean section, agonized, I'm not staying here. My husband, he can't cope with the new baby. He's just got a new job, and I left a pile of shirts to be ironed, and he doesn't know how to do them. Strange, isn't it? Again, yeah. These are some of the most curious accounts I could muster from the near-death experience literature surveyed and employed by various authors as serious contributions to it. If that is credible, then we cannot therefore dismiss them, nor fail to notice their geophysical, anthropomorphic content, which offers dream-like themes of extreme banality, devoid of intelligible meaning. This analysis, to my mind, offers a further telling argument against serious import of an NDE phenomenology, other than deriving from the brains of the subjects reporting. I mean, did this happen? To these people, it did. 2.6, the Jesus characteristics and geography of heaven, true insights or not. Similar criticism as given above apply more specifically to so-called viewings of Jesus during a near-death experience. Do these at last give us crucial, filled in detailed, lacking in New Testament documents? One person said, I can see that from now it had blonde gold hair and a beard, very light, and a mustache and a white garment on. There was a red spot here points to images of the scarlet heart on gown and a chalice in his hand. Another person wrote, he was tall, had a white robe on. His face was beautiful. His skin was glowing and absolutely flawless. Another wrote, she, in reference to the subject's mother, was wearing a long, sparkling silver gown, as did Christ. He had long hair and a long beard. Another one wrote, I saw Christ. He was incredibly beautiful. His feet were bare. The bosom was open, and you could see his chest. He had hair down to his shoulders and a beard. There was light coming out of his head like a star. Jesus was a Sephardi Jew, thus probably a dark countenance and black hair. Finally, what is the descriptive geography of the other world? For Sabron's subjects, we get blue skies, clouds, parkland, mist, water, the Sea of Galilee, a road, a fence, a long corridor, a mountaintop, golden gates, a geographic peoples undertaking cultural handcrafts, and from the correspondence in Jeffrey Long's Evidence of the Afterlife, we are uncritically served up with blue skies, rolling hills, flowers, colors, music, distant city vistas, and so on. These lists are culturally determined and hardly exemplary of any useful insights into the supposed otherworldly realm. Again, we seemingly derive nothing new or revelatory or never before encountered on earth, but only a humdrum, miscellaneous derivative of the media, art galleries, film, Hollywood, and so on. Unfortunately, nothing retold is novel or truly transcendent, only lacking in meaning and imparting a total valueless message. It's hard, isn't it? But you stay with it. And these are critical arguments that and observations that we have to make. I mean, we deal here with mediumship. Well, so what are we connecting to? Well, I say we, I would say probably the vast majority here would probably have the mindset that the ethereal realm, our science is just not up to par. We can thank Einstein for that, but I believe that the day will come when our science will get back to where it was. Okay, I can see that the time is, I'm going to drop this off here, and we'll probably pick a talk with Serena tomorrow in a second look. I mean, I love the subject matter. It is so cool. And again, each of us have had our own experience. I mean, when I had the meningitis, I mean, I was out, I was gone. But even all that time I was in a coma, I don't remember anything. I don't. I've tried and no. But I do know this, I was fundamentally changed when I became conscious aware. Things had changed. Things has changed inside of me. Yeah. Deborah, how you doing? Interesting subject. I agree. That's what I love it. I mean, I just want to, for myself, and it is kind of maybe selfish, self-serving, but for myself, it's important to have a grasp. I don't believe in the Jesus thing anymore. I'm not saying that, it doesn't exist. When you got that many people focused in on it, if it didn't exist, it now exists. But it's just doesn't do anything for me. And so that leads you on. Okay, so where do we go from there, cowboy? Well, I saddled up my horse and, packed my saddlebag up and I headed out. And look at all the friends I got. Almost 200 plus people in here. It's a lot of fans. Thank you for hitting the like button. But yeah, you're welcome, Isby. Much love to you, brother. Love to you as well. Hey, Wendy, what's up? So as we pick up to this on Wednesday, we're going to find out. And again, remember, the vast majorities are cardiac arrest patients. So, and the duration of time varies, but you can already tell it's very interesting. And the one that we're going to find out is the small group that for them, it was darkness. You know, I can relate to that to a degree, but for the vast majority, something happening, and we know something's happening. All right. Hey, CZQ, much love right back at you. Hey, Brandy, good to see you. And Jenny, if you're listening. Who else? Hello, Julianne. How you doing down there? Robert Scott, how are you doing? Much love to you, brother. Project Skyfall and Delaney. It is B469. I love that. There you go. See, Linda? That's what I'm talking about. All right, folks, I'm off. Going to be recording a show with our good friend Ryder Lee and Preston and Dixie. I'm going to try to get to either later today or tomorrow. I have some meetings that I have to go attend to in the morning. We'll do the second look, and then yes, I'm going to do it. Hey, Michael, what's up? We adore the Eon Symphonic myth. How I love that. Yes. That's what we're here. Hey, Get Money Jones, how you doing, my love? Good to see you. Delaney Pearl, saw you. Good to see you, dear. All right. Yeah, Joe, it's kind of like that whole thing that when people challenge me on the whole whatever their beliefs is, here's the deal. I can't prove that there is a Jesus, but I also can't disprove it. I mean, but I'm not Jewish, so what does it matter? I'm not Christian, so what does it matter? I'm not Muslim, so what does it matter? I'm not, Hindu, so what does it matter? We're the ones and I'm going to go, I'll just get into this because you really hit on something there, Joe. We're the ones that are persecuted. When a person, a sentient being, makes the decision that they don't want to be attached to any program, any god, any goddess, any religion, any dogma, any political, any ideology, we're the ones that are persecuted. Why? Because we won't commit. Well, you have to commit to something. No, I don't. That's part of being sovereign. I don't have to commit to a damn thing. If I want to sit my ass in the middle of the etheric realm and not do a damn thing, I can do that. If I want to sit in the midst of the darkness of the void, I can do that. Heidi, I love y'all too, Tony. So, but we're persecuted for that. Well, that ain't natural, boy. Well, I was never natural to begin with. Extraordinary, I am. All right. Hey, AK Morningstar, good to see you. All right, everybody. See y'all tomorrow. Enjoy the day. This is Prosperity Day. Expect prosperity to come to your door. I mean, if you don't make preparations for a guest, why would a guest ever come, right? So Lynn and I always make the offering. We always make the preparation for receiving favor and prosperity. All right. Mary wins, I wins. So Mary, how you doing, my love? Good to see you. Hey, Dar Smile, good to see you. All right, folks. Hey, Big Al. Folks, I love y'all. We are a tribe. We be family here. All right. So see you later. Like tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.